Friday night, an era ended as Landon Donovan said goodbye to US soccer. Now it's a new cycle and a new era. Tonight, the faces of the future, like DeAndre Yedlin and Bobby Wood, join with established stars like Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore, all with an eye to the 2018 World Cup. The scene is southern Florida. It's been a warm, sunny day. The United States facing CONCACAF rivals Honduras, who left the World Cup empty-handed, unlike the USA, who to some extent covered themselves in glory. Big performance expected here with the World Cup big guns back in the team, Taylor.
I think so, Ian. It's difficult for Jurgen Klinsmann with the MLS season winding down right now, the international break, so he gets to call in 5 World Cup players tonight. And the key to this is it sends a message to the young players, to the young team. When you can bring in 5 players of this quality, it says 2 things. One, here's the pecking order of what you're chasing for the next 4 years to Russia, but it also sets the standard because these 5 players coming off the World Cup, their standards are high. Tonight should be a quality of performance.
And with Russia in mind in 4 years' time, a fascinating new role for Jermaine Jones. Will be 36 by 2018.
And interesting because a couple days ago in the press conference, he kind of threw out the nugget. He'll start tonight at center back next to Beasler. Greg Garza gets another start at left back after he impressed against Ecuador.
And the diamond midfield there, again, all players who went to Brazil. Disco didn't get a kick there, the others very prominent.
And that's not a misprint. The number 10 for the United States will play as a number 6 as the defensive midfielder with Michael Bradley in front of it, and then the 2 forwards that every U.S. soccer fan thought they'd see for all 4 games in the World Cup, Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore up front.
That's interesting, isn't it? Josie Altidore playing in his hometown now, Boca Raton in Florida. The U.S. fans here making plenty of noise, doing the I believe that we will win chant pre-kickoff. But it's a strong-looking team. You'd think here the U.S. would put in a big display, but Honduras, Mexico beat them the other night, but they can be quite resilient, can't they?
Yeah, Ian, I think this is a good test. It's early in the World Cup cycle. You get to experiment with a couple of things the way Jurgen Klinsmann will tonight, but it's also for the World Cup players to come back into the team, set the standard, and let everyone know, listen, this is my spot that it was in Brazil. I'm not giving up this spot. So it's not all about the young players tonight. It's also about the players returning and keeping hold of that spot that they have in Jurgen Klinsmann's roster.
We're at the Florida Atlantic University. Michael Bradley back in the team after his disappointments in Major League Soccer with Toronto. It looks will not be in the playoffs. So it's the United States against Honduras. The whole of the game coming up live from Florida in just a moment. On Sunday, it's a massive match in the race for the Supporters' Shield. Clint Dempsey and Seattle travel to LA to take on Landon Donovan and the Galaxy. The MLS Game of the Week, presented by 5 Hour Energy. Sunday, 8:15 Eastern on ESPN2 and also live on the Watch ESPN app. It'll be Landon Donovan's final home regular season match. Landon's time with the USA ended last Friday. Both of these teams went to the World Cup, of course. USA did well, Honduras not so. They didn't really get a single point. It started with a 3-0 loss at the hands of France. Karim Benzema there getting 2 goals in the second game. They led against Ecuador, Carlo Costly scoring, but Ecuador stormed back. They won the game 2-1, Ena Valencia scoring twice, meaning the final game was meaningless. Xherdan Shaqiri with a hat-trick as Switzerland won 3-0. Only 1 goal and no points for Honduras, who had worked so hard to get to the World Cup. But that's their team, and a few Major League Soccer players there.
Yeah, Ian, and you talk about the struggles they had at the World Cup. All eyes are on this midfield. Andy Najar wide right, Boniek Garcia wide left, Claros Garrido. The 4 in the midfield have to run the show tonight for Honduras and in the upcoming World Cup qualifying.
And this is the man who coaches them now, the former Costa Rican flying winger, winger Hernan Medford, who always made a point of doing very well against the USA, I seem to remember. Jurgen Klinsmann there, his first ever win was against Honduras, but he also had that big alarm in the first game of the Hex down in Honduras, losing 2-1, and everyone was wondering where it was all going at that point. Florida Atlantic University Stadium is where we are. It holds about 30,000. It's not full. And the fans that are here are making quite a noise, and they're getting a chance to see, well, 6 of the team that played the last World Cup game against Belgium. Honduras in the blue, beaten the other night 2-0 by Mexico, are on a good little run themselves at the moment. And the diamond midfield again being used by the USA here. They've got an 18-year-old striker out there, Honduras. That's their one change from the other night. Albert Elise coming in. Look for him wearing the number 9 shirt. Tall, gangling presence. I just wonder, don't you, how will Jermaine Jones do as a central defender? I think he's only played the position a couple of times in his days with Schalke in Germany and for Besiktas when he was on loan there last season.
But early friendlies in a World Cup cycle, and these are the experiments that you can do in these types of games. And when you look at Jermaine Jones, he's going to be 36 when Russia comes around. And I think this is what Jurgen Klinsmann's looking at, wants to see it at least in the first 45 tonight.
Timmy Chandler.
I think to keep an eye on something a little bit bigger for the United States, caught my eye, Mix Diskerud playing as a number 6 in the bottom of the diamond with Michael Bradley pushed high. What's that relationship like when Mix Diskerud goes forward? Will Michael Bradley sit in and cover up? First 45 minutes would be very interesting to watch that relationship going forward.
Bradley with instructions to at times get ahead of the forwards. He doesn't want him picking the ball up from the defenders, which used to be more his natural game. It's a more attacking role. Greg Garza keeping the left back position, and there might be something here for Honduras if they can capitalize on it with Rojas. He rather dithered with the opportunity, but just for a moment there it looked like opening up. Nick Rimando, by the way, gets the job in goal, trying to keep his unbeaten record on the occasions when he's been the US keeper. This is Boniek Garcia winning his 94th cap. No Carlo Costly, no Jerry Bengtson. We've got 8 of Honduras' 13 goals in qualifying, so they're trying to start a new cycle with some new names too.
Exactly. As much as you talk about Mix Diskerud playing as a number 6, Jermaine Jones at center back, that's the same thing Honduras is looking at for some new, fresh goal scorers, because they needed help in Brazil 3 months ago, Ian.
Claros, player who had a spell in Scotland playing for Hibernian. He was also very, very lucky to continue his career because he was shot in the head in a raid by thieves a few years ago. Bradley making the interception. Was a sloppy clearance. The US coming off a 1-1 draw against Ecuador in Landon Donovan's final game. Slick movement there between Dempsey and Altidore, but it comes to nothing in the end. Jermaine Jones seemed quite happy about the new role when he spoke to reporters yesterday. Said it with a smile, and it does offer him the opportunity of maybe going on all the way to the World Cup in Russia. But it's too much to ask, I think, for him to do the job he did in Brazil at the age of 36, rampaging around the midfield.
Well, and if anything, the last World Cup cycle told us is that 4 years is a long time. If you would have told me Landon Donovan wasn't going to go to Brazil immediately after South Africa, I would have told you were nuts. If you told me DeMarcus Beasley would be your starting left back, same as well. And so I think for these players, it's important to look at just the game ahead, because the way Jurgen Klinsmann handled the last World Cup cycle, anything can go on. It's just worrying about that moment. And that's why this experiment of Jermaine Jones is my Continental Tire Analyst Corner, because early friendlies in a World Cup cycle, it gives you the opportunity to do this. But I remind everyone at home, 4 years down the road, Jermaine Jones is 36. This tells me one thing. Jurgen Klinsmann wants Jermaine Jones in this team as long as he can. He's going to exhaust all the options. The key is discipline for Jermaine Jones. He has to get better at that category, in that department, if he's going to be a center back at the national team level.
This is the fullback, Wilmer Crisanto. Cognac Garcia losing out now, then Dempsey with Altidore with him. How he'd love to score in his hometown, Josie Altidore. Dempsey was looking for a cheeky little chip there towards the back post, a la the goal he scored for Fulham against Juventus. They're still talking about that one, I can tell you, at Craven Cottage. Zusi is the player coming over to take it. And the Sporting Kansas City man, scored in the most recent game against Chicago. Good goal it was too.
Great ball in as well for John Brooks in his goal against Ghana. Outswinger right at the penalty spot.
Like that. Dempsey couldn't quite volley. He'll have another chance. It was blocked in the end by that Honduras defense. Now, you make a good point there about the quality of Zusi's corner kicks. You can underrate the threat that might be generated.
Well, in you talking to the players, a lot of times you'll hear players hate the outswinging ball, but Zusi hits it with such pace that it's easier to judge and easier to get on the end of.
Here's Gaza, who made such a good impression on his home debut. Just a bit too far in front of Alejandro Bedoya. The time to take a look now at tonight's performance player fueled by Gatorade.
Ian, it's Michael Bradley, and it's been a wild 10 months for Michael Bradley. Returned to MLS for over $30 million contract in January, to then a much criticized performance in Brazil, where many felt he played below his standards. But it hasn't stopped. Klinsmann calling him out yesterday, saying his move to Toronto's been a disappointment. He's now got to earn a spot into the national team and his place on the team. Michael Bradley's 27 years old, a new World Cup cycle, a new challenge. In the prime of his career, I think he's up for that challenge.
Altidore after a mistake there by Bernardes, and Dempsey couldn't finish it. Well, the Honduras defense, there was a horrible mistake by the experienced Victor Bernardes, allowing Altidore in.
Well, one of those things with having Michael Bradley high up in the diamond, and Jurgen talked about it, is high pressing, and this is just a sloppy giveaway from Bernardes. But Josie Altidore plays a ball behind Clint Dempsey that kills Clint Dempsey's momentum to try to get this on frame.
Big moment. Jurgen Klinsmann, one of the great strikers of his era, will know only too well that opportunities like that have to be taken. There has to be a ruthlessness. Bradley to help it forward. This is Mix Discarud, not naturally a defensive midfield player, but he's certainly going to get a chance to shine in that role. This is Izaguirre, the experienced left back who plays for Celtic in Scotland. A lot of Honduran players have gone over to the UK. Quite a few to Wigan. The ball looked a bit unconventional, but it's found its way to Jermaine Jones. Here's Bradley. Deeper, I suspect, than where Jurgen Klinsmann wants him. Great crossfield ball, inch perfect by Jermaine Jones to Greg Gaza. One thing he won't lack as a centre-back, Jermaine Jones, is the physicality and tenacity for the role. Jones again. Ball rather easily cut out that time by Bernardes. Honduras picking 9 of their World Cup 23 in this particular roster. Claros broke it up well, but US get it back again. Dempsey to Bradley to Altidore. Good so far, this. Splendid move. Can Altidore find room for a shot here? Yes, he can! It's a hometown goal goal for Josie Altidore. 1-0 US. And a great move preceding it.
Almost identical to the goal he scored against Nigeria before the World Cup began. But coming into this international break, Jurgen Klinsmann talked about mixed disc group becoming more of a two-way player. Well, these are the types of situations you have to become a better two-way player. That play starts from mixed disc route, and then who is it again? Michael Bradley with the ability to hit the ball over the top. This is literally the exact same way he scored a goal against Nigeria before the World Cup. Bradley picks his head up, finds Josie, big, strong, and conviction in every move. Great goal. That is a huge goal for the confidence of Josie Altidore.
He's only 24 years of age still, but he moves there. Level with Joe Max Moore, number 5 all-time scorer for the USA on 24 goals. How many more might there be before he's finished his US career, in contrast to a difficult spell at Sunderland? There has been some talk that another Premier League side, Burnley, might be after him. I don't think that'd be a bad move for him. I know you've got your reservations.
Well, I'm not sold that Burnley's a better move than Sunderland for Josie Altidore, but the fact is, in this international break, he needed to score a goal, if not 2 of them, to gain some confidence back, and that's exactly what Josie Altidore did with bringing that ball down. Against Ecuador the other night, Ian, you and I after the game talked about how impressive he was with his hold-up play and laying the ball off. But this is why Josie Altidore is in the lineup. Listen, it's one thing to bring it down, take the defender on, be convicted in your movement, and then bury it. That's what a 24-year-old goal scorer for the United States looks like. Josie Altidore needs more goals like that. Well done.
Wasn't the most convincing piece of defending again, though, by Victor Bernardes. I'm sure the Honduras coaching team will think he was rather too easily beaten. But Altidore can only do what he did, and he did it very well. This is Izaguirre. He was in that Celtic team which beat Barcelona a season or 2 back in a memorable, thunderous Champions League night in Glasgow. Great place to score for him. He'll have enjoyed that one. The goals haven't come thick and fast for him more recently for the US. He did get those 2 against Nigeria, but I think those are the only goals he scored before tonight in his last 10 internationals.
But Ian, you look at that goal, that movement, the ball over the top from Michael Bradley. That's exactly what they were missing in Brazil when he went down with the injury. That exact movement right there. When it was just Clint Dempsey up front, everything for the back fours going against the United States and Brazil was in front of them. Josie is a threat over the top. That's what they were missing in the World Cup.
Elise with the header here. A couple of times in the air he's caused a problem. It was a moment or 2 ago when Rimando rather lost a cross. It looks like he's got a bit of power. He's only 18. It's a big opportunity for him, winning only his 2nd cap here tonight. Broken up there by Maynor Figueroa. Elise. Nicely done. Bonilla Garcia again with a dangerous looking cross towards Elise.
Well, you want an experiment at Jermaine Jones at center back. Well, he's going to get that tonight with the great crosses coming in from Honduras over the last 2-3 minutes here.
Looks like there will be an aerial threat coming from Honduras, who have qualified for the last 2 World Cup finals. Izaguirre, that needed to be cut out, and was, by Clint Dempsey. Here's Dempsey again now. Greg Garza doesn't need too many invitations to foray forward from left back. We saw that the other night. He made a thoroughly good impression. It's still very early days in his international career, of course. Nice and cool by Claros. Only found a good ball too. Flicked on towards Elise by Nahar. He's kind of like the guy that got away, isn't he, Andy Nahar, for the USA, brought up in Virginia. Could have easily been wearing a USA shirt. Bernardes, mixed Discarud, getting in a lot of challenges. He's been told by Jurgen Klinsmann to add a bit more steel to his game.
That's a nasty challenge from Claros.
He's getting a yellow card. This is a player, isn't it, who's already serving a domestic 4-game ban in Major League Soccer for
we don't know
language indiscretion.
Yeah, we don't know what it's for, but this is a late challenge coming in on Greg Garza from Claros. But this is what you'll get from the bite of the midfielders in the middle for Honduras. Claros, Garrido, two nasty players that will get in, very tough physically. They're not shy away from any tackle.
So Garza's the player down injured. Gives us the chance to tell you that 2 days from now, Jermaine Jones and the surging New England Revolution travel to Houston to take on the Dynamo. The MLS Game of the Week presented by 5 Hour Energy, Thursday at 8 Eastern on ESPN2 and also live on the Watch ESPN app.
Big news tonight as it hit the Twitter waiver newswire, for that matter, that Dominic Kinnear looks like he's informed his coaching staff that he'll be taking the head coaching job at San Jose.
And he's been there a long, long time.
Long time.
Yeah. That is big news from Major League Soccer. Thank you, Taylor. You're always.
That's what I'm here for.
You're always breaking the stories. Major League Soccer boiling up to quite a climax. Is Jermaine Jones looking comfortable enough in that role? Garza happily okay again. Bradley looking to pick the pass for Timmy Charlie, won't quite be able to get that. It bounces on.
Ian, I'm looking at Jermaine Jones at center back, and I want to bring in our partner Alexi Lawless here, because Alexi, what kind of message does this send to Omar Gonzalez, to the other center backs in this group?
It's, if you're at home. Hey there. Sorry about that, guys. I was mesmerized by the performance.
You know, the on-off button, just push it.
Sorry about that. No, if you're at home and you are a center back, you're Omar Gonzalez. Even if you're here, if you're Michael Roscoe, if you're anybody that plays center back and has for a consistent period, and especially those that have played for the national team, and you're seeing Jermaine Jones being given this opportunity, you got to be scratching your head a little bit. And that is, to a certain extent, also by design. Jurgen Klinsmann talks a lot about challenging his players and not letting anybody get complacent, regardless of how much experience or how old you are. But it is a little strain, and I would think that if you are a center back with the national team and you are seeing this, it can't be a good feeling, to be quite honest.
Thomas Dooley made that move when you were in the program.
Sure.
What kind of message did that send to you?
Well, first off, he was good, and he was a smart defender. And if it's better than what you have, and at times that could be argued that it was, then okay. But you know, all of the players have incredible egos. It's what makes them great. And I don't think anybody's going to believe that they're better.
Now here, after a mistake by Rimando. Well, they were lucky to get away with that. It was a horror story, really, for the goalkeeper. He gave it straight to Andy Nahar. Apologies all round from Rimando, the experienced goalkeeper.
But we've seen this early on, Ian and Alexi, from Honduras. High pressing, and Jermaine Jones, Matt Beazer wanting to spread the two in the middle out, but Nick Rimando in a dangerous spot.
But you know what, Taylor, I don't mind that, because as we've seen in this game and in previous games, Jurgen Klinsmann has told Nick Rimando how he wants to play out of the back consistency. So yes, was it a bad pass? Absolutely. But these games are trying to implement something that hopefully grows and gets bigger and bigger in terms of possession, consistent possession coming out of the back. So I don't mind that. Absolutely. If you're going to make a mistake, make it here. But if this is a pathway to playing a more possession-oriented style, more proactive to Jurgen Klinsmann's word, then okay, I'll accept that.
thought Alexei was going on strike, first of all, when he didn't talk. They got that microphone sorted out.
Dramatic pause. Dramatic pause.
Here's the goal scorer, Josie Altidore. Lost a bit too much of Bradley. Just a little form dip from Michael Bradley. Usually so reliable at the World Cup, at the top of his game, I think, by common consent. Here's Aguirre. Has he overrun that? No, he hasn't. Honduras don't have a great record traveling to the United States. Not many of the CONCACAF nations do, to be honest with you, but they've had their moments, and they were the last team to win a World Cup qualifier away in the USA. It was 13 years ago, mind. 3-2 in Washington. It's a hot, humid night. Feel like Manaus to you? Bring back any memories, Taylor? Let's see. Answer that in a moment, because here are the USA breaking. That's a vital interception, with Dempsey closing in for what would have been not much more than a tap in. A brilliant piece of play by Luis Garrido to get back and cut that out.
A little bit like Manaus, the way the United States are on the break, penalizing Honduras for their mistakes. Great run out of the midfield from Bedoya to pick up his head, and that's even better defending. But this is what Alejandro Bedoya brings to you, a two-way player that can get forward out of the midfield. Unlucky ball across. It's not as hot as Manaus here.
Yeah, nothing is. Nothing. Another Zusi corner. This time the Honduras defense did with it okay. Played in again by Jermaine Jones, and then Dempsey was trying something very cute and cheeky. Not quite.
How about this first-time touch? Jermaine Jones just bringing it down and just dinking it over the top for Clint Dempsey. Watch this. First time, but to lay it softly for Dempsey to bring it down, that's where Clint can't be unselfish there. Bring it down and have a hit.
Dempsey needs 18 goals to equal Landon Donovan. He managed to do that before his international career comes to an end. Honduras with a player down this time. I think it's Elise. Matt Beasler there, restored to the defence tonight after his World Cup exploits. Is Aguirre in charge of all the set pieces, it would seem. Any that suit a left footer anyway. Tim is going to take this. And it worked something, although not quite. It was a good idea because Boniek Garcia had made a nice little run down the side.
And Bedoya is screaming at Mixed Discrew to give him a heads up, seeing that run from Boniek Garcia in behind that two-man wall.
It's Crisanto, the right back who plays for Motagua in Honduras. All the way through the youth teams, the various youth teams. Missed that time by Jones. Here's Andy Nahat. Is Aguirre, good looking cross that towards the back post. They're getting in crosses at every single opportunity, Honduras. Dempsey. Just a little casual that time and broken up by Maynor Figueroa, cap number 109 for him. Can't get a game for Hull City at the moment in the Premier League. He seems to be out of favour with Steve Bruce, the manager. Pretty direct, Honduras' approach. Lots of crosses in. I mean, you'd think with a coach like Hernan Medford, being the player he was, he will pep them up a bit, won't he, in an attacking
Well, and
sense.
I think early on in the game, Ian, that's a great point. But I think when you have the likes of Andy Najar and Boniek Garcia, they'll be able to tuck in the middle, come inside, want to combine. So not being so direct all the time works in Honduras' favor.
There is Hernan Medford. taking over after the World Cup. For Honduras, like the USA, the real business lies ahead. These two nations will be in opposition, of course, at the Gold Cup next summer. That's the next big tournament for the USA. They'll have a pretty strong team out at that. They can confirm their Confederations Cup place for 2017 by winning it.
And I think hosting Copa America will be a huge tournament for assessing players before the World Cup in 2018.
Again, good tackling from Discarud to win the ball. He's done that pretty tigerishly in there today. Jones's ball forward didn't quite have the right weight on it for Graham Zusi. Aguirre. There's a good fluency about their Honduras attacking work as well, with Oscar Boniek Garcia drifting in from the left-hand side and letting Naha come over to this side like he is now, looking to cut inside. Crisanto. Bernardes of San Jose Earthquakes. Wasteful, really. The best 11 in Major League Soccer in 2012, alongside Thierry Henry, Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan. Bedoya. Jurgen Klinsmann has really taken to Bedoya. He hardly picked him in his first 2 years in charge, but he's won 20 caps since then. Versatile too.
Well, he's playing at a high level as well. He's playing first division in France.
Yep, and they're 5th in the table, Nantes, so they're doing all right as well. Here's Greg Garza. Bradley to lay it forward. Given away in a dangerous position by Honduras.
See, I sit here and we're 28 minutes into the game. Look at where Michael Bradley is. His natural instinct is to drop deep. Allow Mix Discarud to go forward, or allow whoever's next to him to go forward. Michael Bradley's natural instinct is to not play under Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore.
He's offside. What you're saying is, can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, no, and that's where it's a little confusing to me, because I think Michael Bradley was harshly criticized at the World Cup because he was playing out of position. He's not a world-class number 10. He is a world-class number 6 for me, and someone that's very good at linking up the midfield from the back four to the front four. But I know, Alexi, you agree with that or no?
The only thing that matters is what Jurgen Klinsmann thinks. And we talked to him before the game, and I asked him point blank when this lineup came out. I said, Jurgen, if you got 4 in the midfield with Mix Discarud and Michael Bradley, if you ask anybody involved in U.S. soccer, they're going to say Mix is going to play the attacking role and Michael Bradley's going to play the defensive role. That he does not see this guy right here as a number 6, as a defensive midfielder. I don't agree with him. I think this summer when we saw Michael Bradley playing in a more advanced position, he struggled, and we've seen his natural tendency even in this game to pull back. But he's going to have to figure it out, because that's what Jurgen Klinsmann wants of him right now.
Here's Oscar Boniek Garcia. And can be electric on his day. He's got through some work, I tell you. Mix Discarud. The movement of Jones back into the defense, if that became a more permanent feature, might open up a more permanent role for Discarud in the team rather than a bench player. Might get a very decent run. Again is Aguirre, the left back, taking the corner on the right-hand side. Bradley it is who gets it away for the US.
And Ian, when I say world-class number 6, it's just, it's not that he's Pirlo, it's not that he's Schweinsteiger, but that's where he's best at, is playing in front of the back four from a deep line position, not underneath Josie Altidore and Clint Dempsey.
Tricky stuff from Andy Naha. Good to watch. Made his debut for DC United when he was just 17 years of age. And quite a spirited response from the Hondurans since conceding to Josie Altidore. Goal scoring a problem, though. They got none at the 2010 World Cup and one at the 2014. 1 goal in 6 matches.
Away! Up! Hey!
Another cross on the way, perhaps here. Nope. This time the flag's up.
When we're talking so much about Michael Bradley and Mix Diskerud and that relationship, I think Mix Diskerud was humbled a little bit, not playing a single minute at the World Cup, and I think his conversations with head coach Jurgen Klinsmann has motivated him to put in a little bit more work defensively, because going into the World Cup, Ian, you and I often talked about Mix for 90 minutes from the start didn't have much of an impact. We saw it in World Cup qualifying off the bench. He would have those types of impacts in the final third. But I think not playing a single minute motivated Mix Diskerud to maybe, you know what, I need to well-round my game a little bit more and get into this starting 11 under Jurgen Klinsmann.
American father, Norwegian mother, and they met at Arizona State. He's playing in Norway with Rosenborg. Rojas, the player who goes down, who might be part of Honduras's new look attack as they move forward.
Josie, you stay in. Zeus, you get in there.
This area right here, Ian, right there is extremely dangerous, and it's always been an Achilles heel for Nick Rimando.
Oscar Garcia. And these crosses are taking some defending. That was into a good area.
It's just a nightmare for any goalkeeper. An in-swinger with pace, 6 yards out. Nick Rimando can't come off his line there.
Beesor it was who did the good defensive work that time. Can they make one of these crosses tell? Ooh. Well, that did hit the frame of the goal. Harmlessly enough, I think, as it turned out. As Nick Rimando just had a little look over his shoulder. What a great soldier he's been for the US. Rimando, the Real Salt Lake man, 35 now, getting his first World Cup experience.
He hasn't lost for the United States, Ian.
Yeah, I know, I know. 13 times he's played the full 90 minutes, no defeats, and a couple of other appearances as well when he wasn't actually the goalkeeper of record, as the statisticians would tell us. Zusi's ball forward, Altidore stayed on side there. He's got Bedoya up there with him, and the flag does go up in the end, quite belatedly. Close one.
Well, for the first time in the run of play, we finally have seen Graham Zusi find that little pocket of space between the midfield and the back four of Honduras. But these are the types of runs, again, I'm not sure he's off there, Ian.
It didn't look it with the naked
Bernardes
eye.
is standing behind him, but again, that's that type of run that I hate to repeat it. That's what they missed in Brazil. Someone to threat, open up the over the top, get in behind, and that way allow Dempsey, Mix Diskerud, Michael Bradley to get underneath. Good run from Josie Altidore.
Zusi to head it forward. It's a long game the USA are playing, trying to bridge the gap between themselves and the elite of world football. Dempsey, movement going on around him with Bedoya on one side and Altidore the other. It all comes to nothing. Good play by Rojas, quick feet from him. Nahar dropping deep. Claros round the corner a little too casually. How quickly can the US develop this counter? Altidore. Bradley again drifting into that deeper area. Conversation that we've had already tonight. Gaza. States, by the way, defending an 18-game unbeaten home record. They've scored in 9 of their last 10 matches, but here's something else. They've conceded in 8 of the last 10. The only game in that run they didn't score in, of course, was against Germany at the World Cup, the world champions. Lovely layoff by Altidore, Bedoya, Bradley. Chance for a shot blocked on the way through by Bernardes, and then the cross shot from Garza had plenty of fizz on it. That would have been something had that gone in the roof.
Well, Garza's had some opportunities getting forward, not as much as we saw early the other night against Ecuador, but again, coming off Josie Altidore, laying it off, and again, you see great Garza coming forward. And what I like about his game is his understanding of when to go forward and when not to. We saw it the other night against Ecuador, and very good timing of understanding when that run needs to come and when it doesn't.
He's got an interesting backstory. He went to play in Brazil when he was 12 for Sao Paulo, traveled there with his mother. Later on, he spent 3.5 years at Sporting Lisbon. No breakthrough there. He's played for every USA team from under 14 upwards.
It's amazing. He was part of the inaugural under 14 camp. It's been a long road to get here for Greg Garza, and he's 23.
Too long from Zusi. Do you know what he told me yesterday? He said when he was in Brazil, playing at age 13, he played with Oscar, the Brazilian and Chelsea star, in the same team. I think we might hear a little bit more of him, don't you?
I do too, Ian. I do too. I was very impressed with his play in CONCACAF Champions League for Tijuana last year against the LA Galaxy. And ironically, he's the one that knocked Edgar Castillo out of his spot at Tijuana.
I think Castillo's gone to Atlas, hasn't he? Now he's been transferred. Looking to pick out the teenager Elise, who is just offside. He looked it. Here's for Olympia, one of the big clubs in Honduras. Here's Jermaine Jones. It looked like a foul by Elise, and it as Jones stays down as well. Cuban referee, by the way, tonight, which I probably should have told you about earlier, Yadel Martinez. Let's look back at that earlier offside decision here against Elise. It's tight, but I don't know, maybe his left foot was.
Yeah, he's on for me, though.
Any part of your body you can play the ball with, I don't know, the left foot. You wouldn't give the ref a long argument, would you? Would you? You might.
Yeah, of course.
You used to give refs a long argument anyway.
No, but that one's okay because that was close enough, and you bring up a good point. Whether it was the left shoulder or the left foot, I can see that, but both runs from Josie Altidore and Elise were close.
And Charlie's gone down injured here. There's another player with an interesting story. He didn't really seem committed about playing for the USA, one of the German Americans, and we all assumed he was sort of out in the cold and then was called back in just ahead of the World Cup.
What do you remember about the end of the Belgium game, Ian?
Well, that's right. He was arguing with Andreas Herzog, wasn't he, one of the coaches, because he never got on.
Yeah, and DeAndre Yedlin, the young kid, got in ahead of him. So as much as I talk about the motivation of mixed disc route, I'm wondering if that moment, humbling moment for Timothy Chandler, might have motivated him.
He's certainly getting a chance since the World Cup. Trip to Europe coming up for the USA next month. They'll be playing certainly against Ireland in Dublin, and US Soccer will announce tomorrow that there'll be a game against Croatia to be played at Fulham's Craven Cottage ground 6 days prior to that Ireland game. Good game, that. Luka Modric, Mandzukic. Give the defence something to think about. Or if Jones will be centre-back for that. There's a thought. By the goalkeeper, Escobar.
I'm not sure Jermaine Jones wants to be in that game, Ian, because that's right when the New England Revolution think they'll be in the Eastern Conference Final.
Well, he'll have to
change the complexion of that team, Ian.
Yeah, well, I think Jurgen Klinsmann will certainly nod in the direction of the playoffs and not involve too many of those players. But he's got quite a big pool to pick from, hasn't he, now? Doesn't look like it's going to be a problem for Michael Bradley. I'm not being too unkind about Toronto. Boniek Garcia to feed it wide for Crisanto. Naha. Jermaine Jones was in the right place there, and that's one of the things about switching position, learning the starting position that you're meant to be in. But he's doing a lot of talking back there. I noticed when there was an injury break, he went over and had another little chat with Jurgen Klinsmann about how it was going and maybe some tactical tweaking.
Well, and keep in mind that international break we're talking about, Croatia and Ireland, there's a break in the MLS playoff schedule, so he still could get called in.
Aguirre, not properly cleared. It will go for a corner kick. I think Gaza was quite happy in the end that actually rebounded off him out of play and didn't tee itself up for one of the Honduran forwards. No Omar Gonzalez in the squad tonight, but he's been pretty busy with the Galaxy recently. Played on Sunday, of course. Too far for everybody. For complete coverage of the beautiful game from Europe, the US, and around the world, ESPN FC is the place to be. Weeknights at 6 Eastern on ESPN News and also live on the Watch ESPN app. USA 1, Honduras 0. Goal scorer Josie Altidore in his hometown of Boca Raton. Bradley dispossessed by Claros. Here's Naha. Crisanto. Naha again. He does look a box of tricks, doesn't he? This is another good-looking run from him. Very confident player. And now the brakes on. Gaza. He's got to get his head up. What's on here? He's picked a good ball for Zusi. Not quite. Back come the US again with Bradley. Just didn't quite make enough of the break. Bradley with a ball into the channel. Altidore thought of going for it, but he thought Chandler was going to get there. And it was a breakdown in communications, really, I fancy. Two nations did meet in the Gold Cup semi-finals last summer at the Cowboy Stadium in Dallas. The US winning that by 3-1. 2 for Landon Donovan, 1 for Eddie Johnson. Discaru's having a good game there. Zusi just left the foot in too much for the referee's liking there. Zusi, there's only going to be a talking to, not a yellow card for him, I think. Coming up at half-time, we'll discuss whether there should be promotion and relegation in Major League Soccer. Some strong views from Alexi and Taylor alongside me. Jurgen Klinsmann said recently he thinks there should be.
He's taken some of the headlines over the last 3-4 days, huh?
In the might be one or two more, I think, about that one. That's a long debate. And there's Herzog there, and you can see Chris Woods in the middle there with the blonde hair, the goalkeeping coach. He was with Manchester United, but lost his job, and unluckily, when David Moyes went. I think he's done a pretty good job with David De Gea. 1 minute of stoppage time there's going to be at the end of the half. Crisanto. Elise is in here, is he? No, not quite. Romando had read it and got out quickly. Discarud. Altidore. Zusi. Not quite happened for him. Figueroa getting in the challenge. And that will be half-time. USA leading by a goal to nil. Josie Altidore scoring in his hometown. Honduras posing a bit of a threat, but no breakthrough for them. Nick Romando had one or two little scares there, particularly when he presented the opposition, Nahar in particular, with the ball. But US lead 1-0 at half-time.